Hey guys, and welcome back to kind of an impromptu final block for the Being Basic series. This is not something that I had intended to do, but when I was talking to some folks over the course of the last week, it popped up and I realized that I've talked about it kind of tangentially, but I'd never really put all my thoughts in one place on this. And so the final section of the Being Basic series is going to be Being Basic training. It's something that if you're in this space for any amount of time, you hear people talk about, you got to get training, you got to get training, which is absolutely true. But nobody ever, well, I'm not going to say nobody, but there's not as much kind of quantified framework as to what you should seek out and how. So again, this is just my take. I have probably at this point, I've got a little over 200 hours of training logged total in my time as a defensive practitioner student, and this is kind of what I've found. So up until recently, I had what I called kind of 3 red pill classes, and I added a 4th. So I'm going to break it down and kind of give you an idea of what I think those need to be. The first one is going to be medical. Obviously, this is forefront on my mind since I just came back from Kerry Davis's direct action response training last week, and it was an immensely helpful class. One thing that I think kind of bears mentioning is in his trauma pack video that I had posted on the Facebook page, he mentioned that over the span of 9 years, they had 114, I think, documented saves. That's 114 positive outcomes from his training. Now, to put that in perspective, Tom Givens, who is a very well-known instructor in the defensive tactics side, pistol, rifle, shotgun, all that stuff, keeps very good record of his alumni. And the most recent numbers, if I'm not mistaken, are of his students that were involved in defensive encounters, there were 63 wins. 63 positive outcomes, and Tom has been tracking this for 3 decades. Now, that's not to say that Kerry is better than Tom by any stretch of the imagination. They're 2 very different instructors. But 114 positive outcomes in 9 years versus 63 in 30 shows you how likely the medical is going to be in terms of need. So that's why it really should be number 1. And so if you're looking to go and pay somebody for formal training, the 2 best ones out there that I know of that I've interacted with personally are going to be obviously Kerry Davis at Dark Angel Medical, as well as Caleb Causey over at Lone Star Medics. If you are looking to try and expand your knowledge base, but you're on a little bit of a tighter budget, every May, if I'm not mistaken, is Stop the Bleed month. So go to their website and look and see where your nearest Stop the Bleed class is. And those generally are at no cost. So at least that'll give you some high level trauma training that you can then be better equipped moving forward. The other 3 are going to be a little bit more of the typical classes, so to speak. After the medical, the next one I think is really important for everybody is going to be self-defense law. Because whether you're carrying the firearm or whether you just have it at home for home defense, knowing the law is absolutely critical. And so really your best bet for that is going to be seeking out some professional instruction, because they're going to be able to break down the legalese into something that's a lot more digestible for the layman. I recently picked up a copy of Massad Ayoob's most recent book, which is Straight Talk on Armed Self-Defense. I'm working my way through it. Haven't gotten completely through it yet, but I will be doing a review. And I'm also going to include a write-up of that at some point a little bit later on down the line. I will include down below my after-action review when I took his Mag 40 class. So I definitely think that that's worth seeking out. So if you're in a situation where, again, you're looking to pay for the professional training, Mag 20 at the bare minimum, which is the classroom portion, is absolutely worth seeking out. I say it's worth doing the Mag 40 so you get the shooting piece in there as well. Mass goes into why he wants documentable records of your shooting proficiency. And then there's also a student of his, I believe, who was Andrew Branca, who does his law of self-defense classes. I believe those are offered as an e-learning as well, so that makes it a little bit more accessible and it's not quite as limiting in terms of scheduling. So that's definitely going to be the best way to seek that instruction out. Again, if you're looking for the kind of entry-level, least cash outlay for that, I would get Massad's book. Andrew Branca has the Law of Self-Defense book as well, so those are both very strongly worth having in the library. And I'll link those down below so that you have access to them as well. So once we've covered the medical and the legal, another aspect that doesn't get touched on nearly as much is the criminal psychology and criminal behavior aspect of it. And really the reason why this is important is because if you can identify predatory behavior and you understand what the template is of the victim profile, you're able to take active measures to ensure that you don't fit within that, which keeps something from escalating to needing deadly force in the first place. It's not nearly as sexy and exciting. It does make for great Instagram videos, but it's absolutely critical. And the guy that I think does the best job of that is teaching regularly across the country, is going to be Dr. William Aprill with his Unthinkable class. It's a one-day class. Even in a very short period of time, he manages to pack a ton of information into it. And that was really the catalyst for me calling these red pill classes, like from the Matrix. Because once you sit through that, your eyes are opened to these different aspects of society that you kind of knew existed, but it really drives the point home. So I would very strongly recommend checking that out if you have the ability to. On the kind of self-education side of that, I think your best bets are going to be the classic is Gavin de Becker's Gift of Fear. So picking up a copy of that, again, should be in every self-defense practitioner's library. You've heard me talk about it a few times before, but Varg Freeborn's Violence of Mind is immensely useful in this as well, because here you've got a dude who grew up in a criminal culture, spent time in the prison system, and is just giving us a peek behind the curtain of how the other side thinks, lives, and operates. So, I mean, it's the cheat codes that really give you some very useful information. And then, of course, Rory Miller's Facing Violence is another solid option there as well that I personally got a lot out of. So if you're looking just to add a couple books to the library and you're not ready to take that training class yet, those would definitely be a step in the right direction. And then lastly is going to be the actual fighting component of it. Now, there is such a laundry list of proficient instructors out there that I could probably make a half-hour video just reading their names. But from what I've taken so far, I think the one that shows the broadest spectrum is going to be Craig Douglas's Extreme Close Quarters Concepts, if you want to take the firearms variant, or Edged Weapons Overview, if you want to take the knife-centric version. I took ECQC, and there's not a bunch of shooting in the class. So it's not necessarily going to teach you how to get a sub-second draw or really to focus on an accuracy standard. But what it does show you is how the access and implementation of the pistol comes into play in that whole environment. And it gives you enough exposure to stand-up grappling, to ground grappling, a little bit of striking, and a little bit of gun work, that it gives you the information that you can then branch out and pursue additional information if you so choose. The other reason why I think that the ShivWorks program should be on the list is Craig has this innate ability to put you in a position. He doesn't set you up for failure. He doesn't put you in this kind of Kobayashi Maru no-win scenario, but he definitely crafts these scenarios where it's very easy to unintentionally make a decision that you then have to dig your way out of, and you've then made your life a lot harder than it needed to be. And I personally find that immensely valuable, because failing to that degree in a controlled environment really opens your eyes to the severity of all of this, and also just to the breadth of all the considerations that come into play. Because just after that one class, it caused me to completely overhaul and reconsider a lot of aspects of my EDC that I had these preconceptions of beforehand. So no one of these classes is going to be a definitive end of the world once you take this year set, necessarily. But I really think that these 4 are kind of the most holistic approach and cover the widest span within the combination of that curriculum. And the other thing is that taking training of any sort, you're already a step up. Shout out to another instructor who has been very gracious to me with his time and his counsel, Carl Wren, and his AI, John Dobb, over at KR Training. They put a book together that is their strategies and standards for defensive handgun training. Another great read, definitely a good addition to the library. But one thing that Carl talks about is, if you're taking a training class beyond your state minimum, you're already in the upper 1% of gun owners in their entirety. So kudos to you. And if it's something that you're thinking about, I absolutely encourage it. I can tell you that the training community that I've been exposed to are some of the most sincere and genuine people that I have ever had the pleasure to run across. And even if it's not something that you end up doing recreationally like I do, it really just introduces you to a whole other facet of this world that you may not know exists. So I definitely say go out, get some training, and focus on where your weak points are, because that's really, where it's best to focus your time, your energy, and your finances to fill in those holes. So hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully it gives you a good jumping off point if you're trying to figure out which direction you want to head. And again, I'll include all those resources down below, links and all that other stuff. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Hope everybody has a safe week, and happy 4th of July. Hopefully everybody still has all 10 fingers. And I will catch you guys next week. Thank you so much.